Hi, Caleb with Brownells here. I am joined again by Craig with Area 419, and today we're going to be talking about the Maverick Suppressor. Craig, take us through it.
So the Maverick for us is a step forward in muzzle device design and technology, specifically for the precision rifle, the PRS, the NRL type shooter. Where this thing was born, before we get into the product itself, was about 2 years ago. There was a trend to try to find suppressors that could reduce recoil. And the conversation that John and I got into is the fact that if a suppressor is doing its job of making the rifle quiet, that means it's depressurizing and cooling and slowing down these gases. But for something to, from a brake type standpoint, be effective as a brake, your cooled, slowed, low pressure gases aren't what's going to fuel a brake efficiently.
Right.
So our grand idea was, if we could take a traditional suppressor and cut it in half and put a brake on the end, we think we could have a product that could kind of switch it between knocking down some of the potentially damaging sound levels that come from muzzle brakes and retain a lot of that control that you really like from when you're positionally shooting with the muzzle brake. So the Maverick was born. So if you're a precision rifle competitor and you're a person that's putting 10,000 rounds a year down this rifle, protecting yourself and giving yourself a physiological advantage in avoiding that blink that can sometimes come with shooting with a muzzle brake is going to take care of you better and is going to allow you to see more things through the optic as you're shooting. But the system is also, as we talked about on the suppressor side, configurable as a traditionally quiet suppressor. So here it is in its 8-inch configuration, and it can also be configured in 9.2 inch, or you can do something like a 6-inch suppressor, which gives you a nice little K-style, maybe a hunting can.
Okay.
So we've built a system that we think gives competitors a level of control and comfort that doesn't exist anywhere else, and gives people that are buying this from a traditional suppressor standpoint an amount of versatility that's really unique in its class.
Yeah, absolutely. And, getting into the theory of recoil itself without getting too deep into it, there's three main factors of recoil, the third factor being that explosion that's happening at the end of the barrel when all the gases are coming out. Mm-hmm. And this is basically taming that, not only from a kick, which is the perceived recoil by the shooter perspective, but actually what's going on as far as, the shockwave and everything, taming that.
So if you've seen anybody compete in benchrest or F-class, in F-class you're using a Sinclair-style bipod that's on skis, and those rifles track back incredibly well and very straight. In a precision rifle, a PRS, NRL type setting, or even a lot of hunting settings where you're shooting from a less traditional, unsupported, maybe off a tripod, or you've got, with our Rail Changer X, maybe you've got a game changer attached to the bottom. As that rifle tries to track back, it's really going to potentially cam over whatever it's supporting. So keeping that muzzle down is important because it's about retaining sight picture.
Right.
A lot of guys in matches, we're shooting a 20 to 25 pound rifle that's chambered in 6BR or 6 Dasher or 6 GT, and there's not a lot of true recoil, but it's about keeping that image in your sight picture, because I want to be able to, if I can, watch that bullet fly with trace, but I definitely want to be able to watch that bullet land, and whether it's a hit that I can make be more centered or a miss that I can understand why, I need to see what's happening. And that's important for a hunter as well, because there's nothing that a hunter is more afraid of. Nothing you want to do less than wound an animal.
Right.
And it becomes much worse if you wound that animal and you don't see what happens when that bullet lands. And whether it's you shoot and you don't know you're in tall grass. Is it dead right there? Did it fall on the spot? Did it take off in one direction? Did you totally miss? Having shot accountability, whether you're in a competitive environment or in the field hunting, is an enormous thing. And the Maverick and its various configurations give you an ability to see what's happening downrange and be comfortable behind the gun that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and regardless if you're hunting or competing, there's an obvious advantage to being able to track that shot, no doubt about it. It's mind-baffling how much modularity you get in one kit, one stamp.
Yeah, this is our 9.2 inch kit. The parts that are on the table come in that setup, and you can configure it a lot of different ways. So if you really wanted to, you could run just the core by itself with the thread protector, and you're going to get a pretty effective blast forwarder type product. You can add a little length and have a 6-inch K-style kind of hunting can that's going to give you a nice amount of sound suppression for situations where you're shooting 1 or 2 times. This is going to be a little more of a moderator. Might not truly be hearing safe, but in a hunting environment, it's going to be much nicer than a bare muzzle.
Sure.
You can then get longer and go to our standard 8-inch configuration, and this is going to give you sound suppression levels that are on par or marginally better than your other traditional suppressors in this size range. Or you can get to the 9.2-inch configuration, which is going to give you the most sound suppression. It's got a really nice deep tone. This thing sounds really nice, especially for its size and for its weight. Or on the brake side, you can run in the 5.5-inch configuration, which is more common for matches. It's going to give you the most brake style performance, but still cut that sound pressure by 3/4. Or you can set up in the 6.5-inch brake configuration, which is going to be a little bit lower performance on what it can do as far as control, but it's going to knock down that sound additionally. So you might prefer the comfort level of it. This is a kit that gives you a lot of those options, but also gives you some cool cross play options, where we have designed this Stage 2, our longer baffle stack, to be within a couple grams of the same weight as the brake. The reason we did this and went to those pains is you can go out and hunt or train with your buddies or be somewhere where you want to shoot ears off and have traditional quietness, but then pull this longer stack, put on your brake, and you're going to see virtually no point of impact shift because
Excellent.
You're not changing the weight on the end of that. We did some special things with baffle design to do a dual clip where they're symmetrical on both sides, so you're not creating a pull in the direction of your clip, because again, we want you to be able to jump from your brake to your elongated baffle stack and not see a point of impact that's going to mess with how your rifle's shooting, where it's shooting. We want you to be able to move back and forth worry-free.
Yeah, and that's a big deal, especially when you're dealing with different modular type systems, is that point of impact shift. And the fact that you don't have to worry about it with this system is a really big, excellent feature of that.
And we also know, because of the use of the Hellfire mounting system, you can pull the suppressor off, put the suppressor back on, and you're going to be very, very repeatable on where that point of impact is.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, the Hellfire mounting system is an excellent choice, obviously for other suppressors, but for this one indeed. And understanding how the muzzle brakes and things like that work, it's kind of obvious for me why y'all didn't make the muzzle brake portion of it itself mount to the longer stack. Why don't you go ahead and explain that to us?
So there's some other suppressors on the market that have what is some sort of brake on the end. So the Omega or the Harvester has the anchor brake, and then Dead Air has their e-brake. But at the end of the day, if a suppressor is doing its job and making the rifle truly traditionally quiet, you don't have the volume or the speed of gas leaving that suppressor. So
right.
When you shoot in this configuration, the gas leaving this suppressor is significantly slower, significantly lower volume, lower pressure, because the suppressor's done its job. But when you come into a shorter configuration, we've designed this one to manage that initial blast but let a lot of that gas through so that the brake can become effective. Because for a brake to be effective, you need high pressure gas and a good volume of it pushing against those ports to give you some sort of recoil mitigation. And we've also designed this brake to give us a nice amount of push down to fight that muzzle flip and retain that sight picture like we talked about.
Yeah, excellent. So basically, in the long configuration, there's not enough pressure coming out the end of the suppressor for the brake to reduce any recoil.
The brake's not going to be effective out there.
Got it.
If you want a brake to be effective, you need to feed it gas.
Right.
And since the suppressor does a very good job of actually becoming quiet, you're not getting the fuel that you need for that brake to be effective.
Yeah, outstanding. And I can't wait to hit the range with this setup, and stay tuned for that. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks for joining us.